Welcome to Spirited Straight Talk, the podcast to help you thrive with the help of spirit. I'm Deb Shepard, psychic medium, spiritual teacher, and author. Each week, I bring new insights to help you heal from loss, connect with spirit, and turn setbacks into triumphs. So let's get started. Have you ever just wanted to ask one or two questions about your loved one? Talk to a medium and just say, I want to ask this one or two questions. I have a list of at least 20 questions that I'm going to answer that are the top ones that I'm asked throughout the years. I've been doing this work for over 22 years, and there is always a little bit of a theme of the most popular, maybe I should say, questions. Mm-hmm. And so I want to respond to those. So today,
the burning
questions. If you've been listening before, the other voice you're hearing is not your loved one. It is my loved one, Dana. And she is going to be the one that asks the questions that I have all the time. And you've heard them, Dana, over the years, the same thing. Yeah. And then I'm going to respond to what I believe or what I tell people that might be very helpful, because I think people just want to know certain things to give them a little sense of peace. Mm-hmm. And years ago, this was not, we were in the closet when mediums, people didn't want to tell anybody. And now it's much more popular. So
secret media.
Yeah. So now people are asking these questions. And I thought this would be a great podcast for the top ones to give my responses. So
yeah, good clarity for people to understand how this works. And I know when I answer the phones and help people get their sessions booked with you, there's the top questions they ask as well. People get nervous a little bit. They don't know what to expect. And so, this is super helpful, I think.
And, there may be two or three that work for you, and there may be all of these or ones that you didn't even think about that you thought, I'm kind of glad I know that now. So that's our intention today.
Number one question, are my loved ones okay?
Always number one question. Yes, I'll tell a couple answers. One of my humorous ones is that there's no taxes or dieting, so it must be heaven, because who wants to pay taxes and who wants to diet?
We need to trademark that phrase.
Absolutely. And I would not do this if they weren't okay. The person I'm reading for, so I'm always that bridge between both realms. So the person that's here grieving, wanting the reading to hear from their loved one, there's sadness and they're hurting, but the person on the other side, they will come through and talk about their experiences, maybe their pain, what was going on, but they do not carry that with them. I know that for me to have both of them, both the ones here and there, it would be a really difficult job. So they are okay. Absolutely.
What if it was a suicide?
They are okay. What I explain to people, and of course, we've experienced losses from suicide. I call it cancer of the mind because it is an illness. So whether someone has, kidney issues, heart issues, lung issues, diabetes, any of those things, all parts of the body can fail. And that's including the brain. And depression and all of those things that go along with suicide are absolutely no different than any other illness when someone passes. It's just
our perception.
Mm-hmm. We want to prevent it, of course, and help them. And the more we become educated in helping people that it's not a bad stigma of it, those things I think will eventually, hopefully change.
What if it was a tragic murder, car accident?
I think people get attached to the body experience versus the soul. Mm-hmm. So the body does get affected by the trauma, and that will come through in a session, but the soul is okay. The soul leaves the body. It's no longer attached to that trauma and that earthly experience. That's what we are experiencing or remembering, but not our loved one that's on the other side.
So we have this awesome list that we're going from because you've put together all the top questions you're asked. But
and of course you can be creative because I know
balls.
I'm sure you do. I wouldn't expect anything less.
So what if somebody is ill? How quickly does their soul leave their body? Or even in a tragic passing, do you think the soul stays there to go through whatever pain that is? Or
why? No, absolutely. I do not feel that they linger around the body. Now, let's say that they are in a state where they actually die and then they're revived. they are still not experiencing the body's pain. They may be watching it, they separate, and then as the soul reattaches, if they end up staying here in their body, then they reconnect as they are healing and they're here. Of course, they're going to feel the earthly pain of things. Thank goodness that there's drugs for those things. But their soul is not holding on to the body. Mm-hmm. But when they are in the body and they're dealing with that kind of pain and they're breathing and living, absolutely feel it. But when their body can no longer contain the soul immediately separates and they are not feeling it. They can watch it. They can see it. Hollywood has some good versions of people having surgery in their or an accident and they're seeing their body. That's basically what happens in that vision, kind of an idea, but they're watching it. They're not experiencing it. And I think that's really important for people to understand.
So we had this recently with one of your students. You actually visited her. We did. And you saw her standing outside of her body, but her heart was still beating.
Correct.
Her body was still alive, but you did see her standing outside of her body kind of.
Yeah, well, first of all, she was in an induced coma. Mm-hmm. So her body was on life support with oxygen and all the medical things that we need. And I feel, and I'm going to give some clarity, that some mediums or other people, practitioners, may have a different viewpoint. And I think there's going to be some cases that might be unique. This may not fit every single category, but generally speaking, with our dear friend, she was standing there by the bed, looking like she did a few years back, and looking at her body and just almost sensing, yeah, it's not working for me anymore. It's not, the body can't battle anymore. Mm-hmm. But I had a sense of peace, even though we know without a doubt she wanted to fight and stay here and continue the process, this human journey that we're on. So I think it's understanding that our bodies are a vehicle to hold our souls. Whenever a medium is connecting with your loved one, they're connecting with the soul. We may feel or see certain things about that person for you to recognize it, but they're not carrying that around and they're not carrying what happened to them. But it's important for the people that are left behind to get that validation. Like, do they know I was there? What was going on? Do they know I had to make these tough decisions? Do they know so-and-so came? Do they know that they left the room? They meaning people that are still here, want to know if they were aware.
Which kind of brings up something funny, and I promise I'll get to the list.
That's okay.
But something that you said made me think of something. So the movie The Sixth Sense.
Correct.
And obviously it's made for Hollywood. So these poor dead people are walking around with half of their skull open. I mean, that's weird Hollywood stuff like that. No, that is Hollywood, right? But when you see them, when you see the soul, you've described to me kind of what it looks like if they're maybe even older, how they come through to you.
It's interesting. I think as you're asking me this question, I think it depends on who I'm giving the message to. So in the idea of maybe a traumatic experience, I may see things that would be like a Hollywood version of something. So I can describe details for somebody, especially if it's a murder case and we're doing an investigation. I can get details like that from the loved one in order to provide insight here. Is that how they're feeling or they look? Absolutely no. It's giving a description so that I have an ability to identify the situation. Their soul, in my opinion, always feels very light. It's that feeling when someone is just in a really good space. When you like meet someone, you're going, wow, you're feeling really good. That's how they would normally feel to me. The details that come through are for us to understand and identify that person. So maybe how they looked, the color of their skin, how they died, tall, short, age.
What age do you usually see them?
I usually see the age of the time of their passing. I don't believe that that's how the souls are on the other side. I think the souls, who doesn't want to be 25 or 30, right? And most mediums in history have thought the same thing or said the same thing. You see them as that young, healthy individual because that's a good time in our life. And we feel very positive. But that person's not going to recognize it if it was a child or a grandfather or something in that situation. They will bring through the image for the person to be able to say, yeah, that's who they are, to recognize them.
Hmm.
It's just for the purpose of identifying.
Back to the list.
And I love the questions because I think these are the things that people want to know what we see. People want to know, what do I see when I'm describing this? So I can connect with the energy of the person. If that person goes, well, do you see them? Do you feel this? And what I will get more details. It takes a lot more work for both the loved one that's crossed over, including myself. So there is more energy going back and forth, and that will make a difference on the length of the.
So it's more energy for them and more energy for you to communicate.
Yeah. Unless we just go into, oh, wow, I really like their personality, or wow, they're stubborn. They were hard-headed.
But that's for you. That's like the first things that come through are their personality traits. Yes. So you'll connect with them. You describe their personality traits to get that link going.
Yes.
And then you go into the deeper stuff.
And I think for some people, they just want to know, is my mom and dad together, or my grandparents with, they just want a general sense of who's all there. And then for other individuals, the details, because there may be guilt or they hadn't connected, they were concerned about how they were before they died. So those details can be more beneficial for those individuals.
Okay.
Case by case situation.
Okay. Now we're on to the second question. Second most popular. Will they come through if they didn't believe in the afterlife or mediums?
Absolutely. This is really fun for me. So many, and you've heard this, Dana, you've been around with me for a long time on this. I remember one time doing a large event, and I looked across the room, and it was big. And I said,
it was the one with James Van Praagh, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And I said, did someone have family members that were nuns or priests? And someone raised their hand and said, both. Her family had nuns and priests that came through, which I really loved, especially in a large venue, because people are always worried that this is a bad thing and about their faith. So many times I've had people come through joking about they would have never paid the money or done this, and they can't believe they're here. And I've been asked, well, what if they didn't believe? What if they don't show up? I'm like, well, let's see what happens. So even though they don't believe that on the earth plane, or maybe they never even thought about it, absolutely.
So atheists will still come through.
Atheists will still come through.
That's so cool.
I know.
I mean, we see it all the time, but for people to know that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter their belief system while they were here. They still.
Well, one of my dad jokes is, when people don't believe, I go, well, when you die, you're going to know I was right. Because guess what? They do come through.
Yeah, all the time. What if they weren't there? This is a big question and a big concern. I wasn't there when they crossed over.
Yeah, this one hurts my heart because people feel they have to be vigilant. They have to be there for the process. And especially if someone has a relative or friend or whomever their loved one said, I don't want to be alone. It has happened so often where their loved one's doing okay, they're being stable, and they go home and take a shower, or they go and get some food, whatever the situation, and their loved one crosses over. They feel so much guilt and shame, or they didn't get there on time, or they weren't aware of it. I have never had a loved one, a soul, come through and say, well, I was really disappointed in you because you weren't there, ever.
Mm-hmm. With the almost 60,000 readings.
Yeah, at least.
In 22 years, yeah.
I think that's about us and us wanting to be there and hold that space for that individual. I compare it to someone having a baby. If you've had a child, how many people do you want in the room? Some people want 20. Some people want no one. And it's the same thing crossing over to the other side. It's that we come into this planet, we exit this planet. And for some individuals, and especially if it's unexpected, there's an accident of some sort, we feel like, who is there to greet them? Are they okay? Absolutely. If you're holding on to guilt that you weren't there for your loved one for whatever reason that the situation was, know that they are not holding that against you.
What if they had a fight before they crossed over? Are they still mad when?
Absolutely. But if you pay me a lot of money, I'll take off the curse. No, they don't. No, there's a life review where they're able to see things. They look at the situation and they understand that things happen, that there are going to be human experiences, and no one's expecting, usually in those situations, a lot of them, that someone's going to pass. I think the harder ones is when someone has a fight and then someone suicides. That's the heavy ones. Yeah. And what I have experienced on my end is they say that wasn't the trigger. That wasn't what did it. It was where I was. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't have prevented me or stopped me or things like that, because we hold on to that.
Yeah.
I know with the suicides in my life, you think, could I have done one more thing? Could I have said one more thing? And what I have shared with most people is we can't control other people. We cannot control. And it's allowing everyone to take accountability for their own process, their own journey.
Yeah. Who are they with?
They're all by themselves. My sarcasm.
Dad joke.
How I explain this to everyone is, you and I live in the same house, but you and I are not together 24/7. We have children, we have other family and friends. Just as in the other side, they don't walk around together 24/7. They do connect with a lot of different loved ones. When you have a reading with a medium, what I have found is, my way of visualizing it is, hey, guess what? Joe and Susan are going to have a reading. Let's all say hi. It's like a family reunion. They get all these friends and family from over the years, and they come for that time. And it's almost like a meeting where all the family gets together, but they don't hang out constantly. Your animals, this is a big one. People want to know, will I see my fur babies? Absolutely. Animals will be there. We've had goats and horses and dogs, of course, and cats and lizards and all that other kind of reptile stuff. Yeah. It's knowing that they are there together and they're back and forth, seeing, experiencing things, but they're not like in one pod connected. Mm-hmm. They are still having experiences on the other side.
What signs are they sending me?
I was thinking about this a little bit more. A lot of mediums, we will share, there's the coins, there's the feathers, there's the animals. There's all these different, they love electronics, messing with things, moving things. Of course, our house, we're constantly having activity. There's always activity in our house.
A shadow go across the room the other day.
Our lights will go on and off. That mm-hmm. Usually we don't know who they are. They're paying customers or something. But what I was thinking about with this one is, how do you learn to feel them versus always looking for the signs? So they will show you numbers. As we know, we see numbers from some of our loved ones. We will hear a song. They'll mess with our radio in the car. Anything electricity, electronic, they like to mess with. Those are very typical. Mm-hmm. However, if you spend time every day at a certain time, relaxing, listening to music, some form of meditation, whether it's walking, and begin to call them in, you're going to start to feel them. It might be from memories. It might be through a dream. It might be that the goosebumps on the back of your neck, the chills, things like that are going to start showing up. What I tell people is, a medium is here to show you that your loved ones are with you and that it's possible to hear from them. What I want people to do is hear their loved ones on their own, and it means taking your time to hear from them. The other key with this is, we can't control them. So if you want to hear from one individual, try to hear from others as well, to begin to open yourself up to that channel. Because if you try to just get that one person, I call it the constipation reading. Mm-hmm. It's you're not going to be able to recognize it because you're forcing it and you're shutting yourself down. Mm-hmm. And I believe humor is a great way to bring up that energy so you can hear them.
Because that's ultimately you connecting with them is mm-hmm. really what they want as mm-hmm. well.
I want them to. What
if they died a long time ago, though? What if I was a child? What if I was a child when they crossed over? Or what if I didn't know them? They died before I was born.
I want to pull my hair out.
Or I was a baby. What if I was a baby?
Well, one of the things that we do when people have a private session or any type of venue that you organize and I show up and do a reading, is we let people know no matter how long they've been gone, they can come through, because there are some people that do ancestry, or it's an interesting validation that these people are still with your other loved ones. Mm-hmm. And now that people are doing their DNA, they're finding out all kinds of stories, and they want to have me go in and say, was grandpa my real grandpa, and all these mm-hmm. different, which is actually very interesting. We have to be open to knowing that our family and our community and our soul group is much bigger than those few that we think died recently or we knew very closely. That person also, if you've had a reading, you may be a messenger for somebody else. So if you have a really good friend and their mom passed and they're having a hard time, that person's mom that you never met may come through for you to give a message to them. And it's helping to coordinate and orchestrate these connections. So I think,
why would my ex's family want to come through and say something?
Usually they apologize for their spouse's behavior. Or maybe that in-law was part of the problem, or there were some challenges. So they do want to come through and talk about this. I know there's times where I'm like, well, if you've been married 3 times, they go, really, all of them? All of them can come through. And it's having people get out of what they think should come through and how it should come through. And if you want to control it, it will be a very challenging experience. And you and I go through this all the time, telling people, anyone that's ever passed. For me, when you have someone come through that's unexpected, it's a great way to validate the afterlife, to let you know there's no way we would have known or I would have known this situation without them coming through with that kind of clarity. So if you are a skeptic or you're not sure, open yourself up to that, because there is really some great beauty with that. And
it's really difficult when people try to control the reading and they only want to hear from, I've only ever had 5 people in my life die, but they don't think about.
And they're 65.
They don't think about that neighbor who lost their child and that child's coming through with a message. Or they don't think about their hairdresser whose mom recently died. They can come through. They don't think about those things. And then it takes time for you to have to weed through the information and get more and more details in order to validate that one person versus having an open mind.
And what I have found with when people are open, what sometimes will happen, they go, you know what? I thought about them, but I didn't write them down, or I didn't think they would come through. If you want to hear from your loved ones, whether it's through a medium or you want to have that connection, do not try to control it. Get out of the driver's seat.
There we go.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom.
What are they doing? And do they see what I'm doing?
They watch everything.
I don't want them to watch everything.
I think there are times where people are like, oh, what are they watching? No, it's like, we don't want to watch our family with all the things that they're doing. That's personal. But we do want to see what's going on. Is there a celebration? Is someone sick? Is someone have a promotion? Are they traveling? Did someone get married? Those are the kind of things that they will come through, because it's just like all of us. We want to have a curiosity about what's happening with the people we care about, or even the ones we don't care about. So yes, they are around seeing this. And for a good session, do you want them to come through to validate these things? They just took a vacation. They are having trouble with their car. All of these kind of things will help people know that, yes, without a doubt, they're there. What are they doing on the other side? Big question. The way to briefly talk about this in this podcast is there's a life review. Time is very different. They're going through the process of seeing what their contracts were here. What was their relationship with everybody? What could they do differently? What were their fears? And so they spend a lot of time going through all the layers of what they did on this earth plane. And of course, one of my favorite movies is Defending Your Life with Al Brooks.
They all meet at the Akashic Records.
They all meet
the Hall of Records.
The Hall of Records. And it's just reviewing and seeing, what they could have done differently, what they did do successfully. And it's not a judgment. Like, a lot of people feel like there's a heaven or hell and a purgatory. And no, at least for me, I've never experienced it. And, I've had people like Ted Bundy. What was some of the ones we had with Cleo that came through?
Oh, yeah. Martin Luther King Jr.
So you look
at Maya Angelou.
So you have these people coming through with someone like Ted Bundy. I know
Sammy Davis Jr. I'm just remembering
Prince,
all those people.
Remember Prince came through? Yeah. So when as a medium experiencing these things as souls, I've never felt them in this positive or it just feels kind of an organic energy. And that's why I think I've always come back with there's no taxes or dieting, because that's how it feels. It's like we don't have the same stress, but they're doing life reviews. They're looking at what's next, what could have been done differently. And of course, I believe that we come here to learn. This is Earth is a soul school. So it's reviewing what they came to learn and what did they accomplish and what do they want to do next time. And I don't believe it happens. I don't think they do this process quickly.
It's really to wrap your head around that, though, that there's this system in place that we choose to incarnate and learn lessons, learn how to get through fear, learn unconditional love, learn, that there's this system in place is mind-boggling. And that's it's so hard to wrap your head around.
100%. And that's when people go, what are they doing over there? And I've gotten other things that they're doing, but I don't know if my mind can even comprehend that. We look at the James Webb telescope that is going way beyond anything we've ever seen. That comprehension alone is mind-boggling.
Vast the universe is.
Yes.
It scares me when I think about it.
So to think about this in a short explanation, there are a lot of books out there that people have channeled to get details. And I think there are pieces and parts of all of that play into it, but there isn't just one, this is what they're doing. They're training for a next marathon or something. Yeah.
What if they reincarnate before I get over there? And will they be waiting for me?
So the first part of that, or the second part of that question, will they be waiting for me? Absolutely. I get often asked, I see my so-and-so, my husband, wife, and yes. And does it mean immediately? I think when people die very unexpected, like a car accident, things like that, sometimes they may have guides or angels that are there. But when it is an illness or more of a death that is not unexpected, loved ones do show up. And I probably will share that story. I do not believe that people are reincarnating quickly right now. I think a lot of souls are coming here that are older, that are trying to change our planet, because our planet is a little bit exhausted. Mother Earth is a little bit stressed and burnt out, and we're very overpopulated, and we're having some climate crisis, things like that. So if I just look at that piece of it, souls are not reincarnating that have just crossed over. So people that are being born are usually older souls. That's why we're seeing, it's a whole other topic, but seeing even these kids coming in really changing the way we see kids, gender, anxiety, the intuition, the sensitivity. These kids are coming in as old souls. It's almost a little bit warriors. They're not a soul that just passed a couple of years ago. These are souls that have really worked, in my opinion, through a lot of stuff to come here to say, we need to make some changes, and I'm willing to take that on.
I mean, eventually we'll be light beings and won't have a gender.
Well, we really aren't genders. We're souls, and that's the confusion of, they will come through, meaning your loved one, as the gender that you recognize, not the soul. The soul is
genderless.
Much more. It's a higher vibration, but we will feel that male or female energy for us to go,
to recognize them.
To recognize them.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So can they tell me what to do with ...
A couple theories on this. One is, I do not believe your loved ones or your guides are here to tell you what to do. A lot of people feel, my mother is doing this. My mother's helping me. If that resonates with you and it works for you, it doesn't matter. That's really great. For me, I don't know what relative that's crossed over that I'd really want their help from, but that's just me and my soul group. There's a few.
There's a couple.
I will take that back.
I'll take my grandma's advice.
Oh yeah. My cousin Robert. I mean, there are some people out there that I would really want to, but
I don't think they're highly evolved souls.
No, are the people that really are the souls that really help us are the ones that have elevated to a place to be guides, to not be attached to us, things like that. However, I do believe our guides can use our loved ones to tap us on the shoulder and say, you got to pay attention, because sometimes we don't recognize our guides, but we may recognize some kind of emotion, feeling, sign from someone from a loved one. So I feel like that can come through. And I share this with people. If our loved ones could intervene, then why didn't their loved ones intervene for the people that they lost? Like someone that had an accident or someone that should have been more aware of going to the doctor, things like that, making different choices, or the bad choices that we have in life, who we end up marrying or where we end up going or job or the situations that cause us more pain. Our loved ones are watching us, but it doesn't mean they're intervening or giving our guidance. However, if that doesn't resonate, as I always say, take what works for you. And other people in my profession will say things differently. That's just what I have felt and seen.
I know what's right.
Yeah.
And you never say that.
No. It's my experiences.
What do they want me to do with my car, their stuff, their car, their child, what should I do with all their stuff?
We just did a podcast on this.
We did.
And we got some good feedback, because people get overwhelmed with how much stuff we accumulate. And we feel that the stuff that was left behind are memories, and we want to keep those. So please go to that podcast and listen. I forgot what it's titled, but it was just something about what do you do with your loved ones' things? And they do not care. And one of the ways to look at this is, if you remember your first car, people, yeah, I remember my first car. It's freedom. I feel really great. Guess what? And you're 40, 50, 60, 70. Where's that car now?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We have one student that knows where her first car is.
Yes.
And she still has it.
Well, it's a Volkswagen Bug. So, you got to give it credit that she kept a good investment there.
Yeah.
But bottom line is, we have such an attachment to that first opportunity, that first car, that first kind of freedom. But over time, we've replaced it. Things go on. Our loved ones feel the same way about all the stuff they accumulated here. They are not attached to it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of drama about who gets what and what happened, especially when things are not, put in writing, but they are not attached. So whatever you do with these things, don't feel like they're
more upset about the fight.
Yeah. They don't want you to fight.
Stuff.
Yeah. Don't.
And that comes through in readings all the time, is stop fighting over stuff.
And we just had a class the other day and we were talking about how many things that our kids and other people are like, I don't want that stuff.
Yeah, years of China.
No, years ago, people worked really hard. That was, you passed it on. We're not in that culture anymore.
Yeah.
So repurpose it, pass it on, donate.
Yeah.
Whatever you can.
Yeah.
Don't hold on to it. And
Which made me remember, we have a table that maybe we need to pick up for a move.
to get it going. Yeah. I actually thought about the other day too. When it comes to photographs, sometimes people have stacks and stacks and stacks of photographs. One thing that you and I did with my father-in-law's stuff is, he had a lot of awards because he was a general and those kind of things. We took photos of it and didn't keep all the boxes of stuff, but our goal is to put it in an album, even online. So for future generations, if someone wants to go through, it's there.
Yeah.
It's a back.
What if I move? Are they going to?
They will hunt you down. I've had people where they won't, move from their house or change anything because they're worried that their loved one can't find them. They will find you.
It's energy.
It's energy. Yeah.
Location. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've had it where people will travel and take someone's ashes. That loved one will recognize and say, I was there when you spread some of my ashes, A, B, and C, different places. They will be with you. They see what's happening. They've got wings. So they're not stuck right where you are. They are able to move around,
and
go to places.
Multiple places, you've said.
Yeah, more than they can see, which is really kind of cool. It's kind of like the government, right? Where they can see multiple places at one time. So yes, they can be in more than one location, which is, again, how does our brain wrap around? How do we comprehend that?
What if my parents were divorced and didn't like each other? What happens when they cross over?
So interesting. It happens where they come through together, and it's not like kissy face for sure, but they really did not like each other. I mean, it was just horrible. I mean, even if you want to go to the fact of someone, and this is a little bit morbid, but a murder, suicide, or all those kind of things where it's tragic, they'll come through together to identify that they're there and they're working on the healing piece. It doesn't mean that they understand our earth energy and what we go through. But when they're on the other side, again, they're going through their process and their soul had a connection to come here and learn things. So when they get there, they go, yeah, how well did we do on this? I mean, did we fight enough? Did we
effed up?
Yeah. We could have done this a lot different. So it's sort of those kind of discussions that they're going through. So people are surprised that they end up coming through together.
Yeah.
And
we do hear that a lot. It's like, oh yeah, but they didn't like each other. It's like, well, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're there.
They're coming, they're saying hi.
Especially if you're having a session, you want to hear from both of your parents. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't they come through together?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to see Deb Shepherd.
Yeah.
And then we gather.
Hey, you want to go and really mess with our kids now? All the fights we had, now we can come together and say everything's really great. That's going to really help.
Yeah. Were they in pain when they passed?
I think for people that see someone fighting a cancer or whatever, they're struggling, they're going through something difficult. I think it's the reflection that they don't hold on to that if they're passing. I think you have the story of, which is why I'm going here, is the story of the squirrel. Remember the squirrel that you found that was in shock? And our vet said they kind of leave the body. Mm-hmm. I really feel that that's very similar to the human experience.
I tried to figure that out. So I started researching to find out why, because I thought that squirrel was dead. But he lifted his head, which is why I went back and got him.
How many of you have seen a squirrel on the, mm-hmm. that didn't win the fight with a vehicle, right? Well, Dana comes home with this squirrel wrapped up. Mm-hmm. She saw the squirrel move, and so she knew it was still alive.
But when I went to go pick it up, it's like it wasn't even there.
Mm-hmm. It left its body.
It left its body because it knew it was going to get squashed.
Mm-hmm. It was prepared.
But obviously it was stunned and it just kind of laid back down, and then it was lifeless. But I ran into the street and grabbed it before a car could run over it, and he rested. And then the next morning was ready to go rock and roll, ran out.
Even though I thought he was crossed. He was Dana the next morning he goes, he's wide awake, ready to go. He's good to go. I really think that's the same thing that happens to humans. I mean, it's soul's a soul, whether it's a squirrel, a deer, whatever, soul's a soul. But our body goes into and I don't know any medical terms for this, and I should have maybe done some research, but I think our body releases something for our soul not to feel all that.
Okay.
And how many times when someone has gone through something tragic, they say, I don't remember the accident. I don't remember these parts. I think we're designed on so many levels not to remember those things. And
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a little different with PTSD because, they're watching it. But when it comes to the trauma for your body, I think there's pieces of it, but I think we're designed to exit the physical experience.
Okay. Wow. How do I honor them?
This can be very creative. I mean, we see a lot of tattoos now. I mean, tattoos always make me curious because I find that people want to talk about someone that they love, that they want to do that for. We know our friend Dawn that put a bench. Some people plant trees. It might be every year celebrating them and doing something in honor. Pay forward, doing something in someone's name. We see charities. If you can't do something that big for somebody, do something small by just giving back to somebody. Just say, I want to take you out. I know you've had a bad week, and I'm doing this in honor of a person that I love. Mm-hmm. They can be very simple.
Yeah.
They also don't get upset if you don't do a big party or you do a small one or you do a bunch of different ones. It's really up to us.
Mm-hmm.
Light a candle.
For us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they stuck? Like if they're still here, their energy is still here, or I feel them, does that mean they're stuck?
You know how that drives
that bothers you, I know.
Where's my soapbox? For those people who are younger, what's the soapbox? I hear this a lot, like, well, are they stuck? And I'm like, the people that are living are more stuck than the people who have passed. So when people say, the soul's stuck, like when someone goes into a haunted house, I'm thinking if there's a soul still hanging out there, they probably just want to hang out there. They're probably like, yeah, I don't think I want to go into do my life review and then come back to this life. I'm kind of fine here. I do feel that sometimes some energies, it's more of a maybe
residue or something?
like a residue. I have been doing this work a long time, and I don't think I've ever experienced someone being stuck that I couldn't connect with, or, those kind of things. Whenever I've done building or house clearings and they feel there's spirits in the house that are stuck, 99.9%, it's the energy of the people living there or working there that has caused some sort of energy that feels like others that have passed, but really it's a reflection or a mirror is the best way to say it. Your loved ones are not stuck, and you cannot hold them back. If you have a reading, you're trying to communicate with them, you're not holding them back. I hear this all the time. And I'm like, if they don't want to talk to you, they're not, but you're not controlling where they are in that world. If you think about, could you control them when they were on the earth in their regular bodies? And people go, well, no. And you really think you can have that much power over there? We don't have that kind of power. If we did, they would be looking a lot different.
So are they okay if I remarry or move or travel? And this is a big one. Is it okay not to be sad all the time?
They want all of that for you. They want all of that for you. They wish it. And as you know, I have people try to find happiness, because when you bring in that joy and you are loving life and you take this great trip and you find a new partner, or just how life goes on, you go back to school, you do the things that are important. It actually shifts your vibration to be able to feel your loved one more. Because when you hold on to that grief, it lowers an energy and makes it more challenging for your loved one to feel you. This is why mediums have an easier time. First of all, we have a great channel to it, but we're not holding on to shame and guilt and it's okay to be happy. So having that energy makes it easier for us. The more you do that, the more you're going to feel them. And it's going to make them want to be more connected to you, because they don't want to hold on to the fact that you're miserable because of them. I mean, I wouldn't want that. Well, if I cross over, I do want you to be miserable. Okay. I want you to be suffering
for a while.
But there's a typical time of grief.
Just stay here.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I use the word typical. There isn't a typical time of grief. Grief it doesn't matter. You can move on in your life and do different things. But it does mean that it takes away from your love from them. It just means that you're continuing having a life here. And that's going to be really important.
So I know you give advice, because you can't possibly do as many sessions as there are people in the world that need a session with a medium. So you do give advice on how to find a good medium. But I also have to say, people can book time with you. That's my job. So they can book time with you if they really want to see you, and we'll get them in with you. And all you have to do is call the office website, go to the website, give me a call. I answer.
Right.
But how do you choose a good medium? What advice would you give somebody?
There's a couple of things to remember. You want to have a good session. Some people get really desperate to want to hear, and people have asked, well, how soon after someone passes, how long do I have to wait before I hear from them? You can hear from them right away. I do not advise that. And the reason for that is grief is an important process. And if you go and have a session, you're not going to hear what you need to hear. It's almost, you're going to have a second, in my opinion. And ethically, my ethics are, give yourself time. They are okay. Come a little bit later and you will have the answers that you need. And you're going to feel good about that. If you have to a medium and they don't have a good reputation, or
we had recently, just to bring this up, we had recently gotten an email from somebody who came to see you a few times in years past, and they went and saw somebody who supposedly had a good reputation, and it was a horrific experience, and it felt dark and scary. And so they reached out and said, hey, is this the way a session's supposed to be?
Absolutely.
And
not.
There's a certain way that you run your sessions. So this person scared them and said things, these bad things were going to happen. And that doesn't feel like...
No, for me, my ethics are extremely important. And anyone that has worked with me, I teach, Dana knows, I have some ethics, even having an appointment right after someone dies. I want you to have some time. I want you to have some time to process before you set an appointment. You can set the appointment because we're booked out, but that immediate appointment, give yourself time. When a medium psychic gets information that might be let's just use the word red flag. If they're not backing it up with advice of what to look for, just say, you know what, I'm seeing, you have a lot of stress going on. You just may really want to think about some things that you can do, which is logical, so that the stress doesn't pile up. I mean, I just had a session like that today where, she knows she needs to work on her health, and she didn't ask me that, but I said, it really feels you're eating on the run and you're not eating great food. That's not dark. It's just simple advice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She goes, yeah, I do know that. And yes, I need to put it as a priority. That should be the advice you get from anyone. Anything that's really dark or negative, or someone dying, or predicts these things. In my opinion, maybe
they're trying to scare you.
Yeah. And that gives people like myself a bad name. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the old energy of, we're trying to take your money. If you know someone, so maybe they have a good reputation, but do you know someone else that has gone to this medium? If they have a channel, a Facebook Live, watch them. How are they presenting? Anytime, have they done things in the past? Have they written books? What is their background that allows you to feel you can trust this person? Mm-hmm. And I wanted to say in the closing part, but this goes with this: trust your gut. 100%. If they say something, if I say something and someone goes, I'm not really sure, I go, then throw that out. Was 95% of this, did it feel right? They go, yeah. I go, write it down. I can be wrong, because we are interpreting.
Yeah.
So if someone tells you something in a session and part of it didn't feel quite clear, realize that it's not going to be 100%. You're going to get a good percentage, but your heart, your soul is what you trust. Number one, trust what you feel. Trust what is coming through. But these days, we have social media. You can do your research on any medium that's out there and look to see what their history is. Mm-hmm. Look to see what people are saying, how long they've been doing it. Do they have any credentials? Me, I've been vetted how many times?
Yeah, several.
And being vetted says I've been tested
yeah.
deeply. Yeah. Some of them was really...
we're talking, Mark Ireland with certifiedmediums.com and Helping Parents Heal and the Find Me group and Best American Psychics. I mean, you've been vetted and tested by all those organizations.
James,
so look for someone, James Van Prague. Yeah, you were tested by him.
Let them, and some mediums will make appointments that are, 15, 30 minutes. So, that might be a way to, but do your research, because if you're grieving and you want to know and hear from your loved ones, do your research. Don't look just at price. I've heard people many times say, I paid 4 different people, but I ended up with you because I never got what I wanted to hear.
Or needed
to hear. Mm-hmm. So really do your research. Mm-hmm. The other thing I wanted to say is these answers I gave are simple. They can go a lot deeper. And these are the things that I share with people. It's my perspective, and I try to give a positive way of looking at these things. But if you've had your own experiences or read something that really works with you, then take that. You don't have to take what I'm saying. This is just what I share. And I'm always right, but that's a whole nother story.
We know that.
The biggest thing is to realize where your grief is, finding the right tools to ask the questions that you really want to know and understand. If you schedule a reading, especially with me, do the homework. Be open to who shows up and what they share, and it will be powerful. It's life-changing. Even the sessions today, I was getting individuals just saying, this is going to change my life. And that's what a medium session should be. Mm-hmm. It should have you feel there's a lot of validations. There are things that you had questions about, and you are feeling that sense of peace.
So we have an amazing person that helps us with our marketing, and she came across, and we ended up sending this out, an article that research has been done on the healing that seeing a good medium can do over counseling. And you hear this all the time. Counselors,
therapists constantly send clients.
Clients. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They work with them, and then they send them to you, and then they go back to their therapist and work through some more what they're struggling with. And it can be so extremely helpful. So just putting that out there, that was that went out actually in an email recently.
And mediums are not therapists. We're connecting to the other side to have you have that conversation.
Yeah.
So always, get a good therapist too, to help you through things. And I suggest getting a therapist that's a little bit more open-minded, because this can be very helpful. But do the work behind the scenes before you hire, because we've had so many people come back going, I am worse now seeing so-and-so or going through that. So there are some really good ones out there.
Those were 20 plus great questions that people ask. Yeah.
I want people to be able to walk away going, this is going to help me with where I am. So whether they get a reading or not, or go any further with a medium, at least this piece can help them to maybe even feel their own loved ones. And that is our intention, is for healing to take place. And that is the biggest intention that we have, to help people heal.
Mic drop.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope it inspired you. If you enjoyed our conversation, make sure you subscribe so that you get notified of new episodes. And let's get connected. Visit debshepard.com for more insights, support, workshops, and a book a session with me. And finally, always remember,